Greetings, fellow Ghibli fans. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Jacob Weil.
There are few names in the field of animation that inspire awe and admiration like animation master Hayao Miyazaki. To properly pay tribute to the man's illustrious career, we have embarked on a 3-year journey through his films, seeking enlightenment along the way. May you find it with us this May-Azaki. And tonight we're going back to not the first Miyazaki film technically, but I believe, you guys can totally correct me if I'm wrong about this, I believe this is technically the first Ghibli film. Is that right?
Yes, this is the first Ghibli film. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't mess that up. It's Castle in the Sky or Laputa Castle in the Sky. Take your pick on if you want to include Laputa in that title or not. All right. Let's see. Dragon, I'm going to throw it to you first. What do you think of Laputa Castle in the Sky?
So, Castle in the Sky, perfect launch movie for Ghibli. It's a fun adventure. It's got a great moral. The action's very well directed. I love Mark Hamill in this. I think he's so good in this. It's very the best way to kind of summarize this movie is just it's very sincere. There's something very sincere and earnest about it. I think it's a lot of people's, well, understandably so. I think it's a lot of people's first Ghibli film, along with My Neighbor Totoro. Like, if they didn't see Totoro first, just through kind of, it's like, oh my god, let's go with the iconic one that's the logo. It would be probably Castle in the Sky. I think this ultimately, I really think, even going back to this movie, I remember being impressed by it when I kind of started the kind of my proper Ghibli binge on like all the Miyazaki films I'd never seen before. Castle in the Sky was kind of a recent, well, not recent to this year, probably recent to when we started May-Azaki, probably. This film still, to me, it kind of embodies what Hayao Miyazaki and his crew set out to do in the medium of animation. I think it holds up, and I think it's really, again, it kind of feels, maybe to a degree, like if they didn't get another shot at it, they would have said everything they needed to say in one movie, in a sense. Now, I'm not saying I don't appreciate all the other things that we did in all the other movies that are fantastic. I'm just saying, like, this is a key movie.
Spirited Away, don't need it. Mononoke, trash. No, I'm kidding. But yeah.
Still, it's very important,
For sure. All right, Jacob, what say you?
Yeah, as you all know, I've obviously been familiar with Ghibli for many years, but only really started watching these movies when we started doing this. So the funny thing is, I've been a fan of anime for quite a few years, for many years, but only recent. So this is kind of a fairly recent development that I even got into Ghibli in the first place, despite obviously knowing of the immense legacy that it had. Obviously I was familiar with Spirited Away because that's the one everybody knew.
Of course.
So, and of course Totoro, because he's the freaking mascot. Which we just obviously covered that one too, and that was my first time even watching it. So yeah, I'm a bit late to all these, but this one I actually did watch last year, funnily enough. My plan was to watch all of the movies on, like, all of the Ghibli movies that were available on Max that I could, and this ended up being the only one I ever watched because my brain works that way.
I feel that.
So I still need to get around to watching some of the other ones, especially like some of the ones that Hayao Miyazaki didn't have involvement with, which I really want to look for. I'm looking forward to watching those, believe it or not.
The Wind Rises might be my personal favorite Ghibli movie out of all of them, honestly. Even the Hayao Miyazaki directed stuff.
Well, that is a
Hayao
Hayao
personal level, if anything else.
Oh, I think he knows. Yeah, he knows that.
Yeah. But either way, So going into this, I knew this was like the first.
Wait, did I say The Wind Rises? I'm sorry, I meant Whisper of the Heart. My
Okay,
bad.
well,
My
yeah,
bad.
forget
I'm
what I
not.
said.
I'm not actually stupid, guys.
Well, jury's
I know
out
the
on
jury's still out on that, but yeah.
Anyway,
technically, Miyazaki did write that.
He
so.
did. He did.
That's true. That's true.
write
Yeah.
that. Not the sequel that came from it though, but he did write that.
I still haven't seen the sequel, actually.
Anyway, Jacob was saying.
Yeah, my bad.
So technically, that kind of is like half a Miyazaki movie, I guess.
Oh.
Mhm.
But my point is like, so I did watch this, and I must say, like, you can definitely kind of tell it was like an early Ghibli movie and even an early Miyazaki film. But I don't think that is a detriment to it all. It's definitely not as like lofty or ambitious as some of the later Miyazaki movies. I wouldn't even, basing what I've seen from like Nausicaa, I wouldn't even say it's as ambitious as that. But starting off at a new studio, I'd say this is a very good start for Miyazaki. Like, it's a fun adventure. I mean, I think the animation and backgrounds are basically like, you look at it like, yeah, this is a Ghibli movie, all right.
Mhm.
I mean, even early on, they had the backgrounds nailed down to a T. Like the set designs and everything.
Honestly, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like the set design, like the characters, and like the background, you can tell like they had it everything. They basically had everything looking the way they. Yeah, basically, they already have that down pat. What I'm trying to say. I said the story isn't really as ambitious later, but I still think it's a kind of a fun adventure. The characters are endearing, and Studio Ghibli's really only full up evil villains. It was kind of a surprise, but definitely a lot of fun.
But also, like, really, really, really ridiculously lovable, like, chaotic, good, quote unquote, villains.
Yep. So it was kind of surprising considering how like a lot of Ghibli's and Miyazaki's later films don't have any like set villain, or if they do, it's kind of like a gray and gray kind of villain.
They're never
Yeah,
pure evil.
That's kind of been a trademark for them, yeah, is not really having villains.
But for like being like the only pure villain, I'd say they did a pretty good job with Muska.
And of course, one of the only pure Miyazaki villains is voiced by Mark Hamill. I mean, that just makes sense, right?
Yep, of course it does.
All right.
So I gotta say, but I don't know. I still need to watch, obviously, through a lot of the other Miyazaki films in order for my preparation and all that. I haven't even seen all the movies from last year.
Mm-hmm.
I said I still haven't even finished Porco Rosso yet. But like I said, I did manage to watch Mononoke, Princess Mononoke. So I was like, so I don't know where this is ultimately rank in my movies that I've seen so far, but I'd probably say around the middle.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Was that it for you, Jacob? Just making sure. Okay. Yeah, like honestly, Jacob, I kind of agree with you on that ranking. I feel like this might be the Miyazaki movie that I'm maybe the most mixed on, and I don't want to say that in like a negative way, because truly for me, there's one element to this movie that's a big negative, and it's really not even Miyazaki's fault at all. It's just, and I'm sorry, guys, I'm gonna have to be the bad guy here. This honestly kind of feels like a throwback podcast where Dragon and Jacob are, like all positive all the time. It's like, I gotta point out, the dub has some definite bright spots. We already pointed out Mark Hamill. Cloris Leachman is just delightful. I freaking love Cloris Leachman in this movie. It's just, her character is just such a bright spot. Jim Cummings, I mean, he's basically just doing like the guard from Aladdin, but he's doing a good job.
The Razul voice.
Yes. James Van De Beek and Anna Paquin, man, they're not it, dude. They are not it. Like, I think Van De Beek is like the more tolerable of the two. My problem with Van De Beek's character.
You mean Vanderbeek?
Vanderbeek, yeah, I'm sorry. My problem with his performance is simply like, I think he does a decent job, but it's just that voice does not feel right coming out of a character that is designed to be that young. And I actually, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you guys know anything about this. I actually heard that they did some script changes to the dub just to kind of like age up the characters a little bit, even though they're they still obviously look the same. Anna Paquin, though, what is Anna Paquin doing in this movie, bro? I mean, I'm sorry, but this lady is like just switching accents like left and right. That to me, right there, was the biggest obstacle. And Jacob and I were actually talking about this off air. I feel really stupid because I was watching on Max and I was like, oh, I don't really like this dub. I mean, I like Mark Hamill, obviously, but I really don't like the leads. I wish I could watch the subtitled version. Let's see if they have it. And then I stupidly I went to check the languages on the version that I was watching, and the only language was English. I was like, shit, Max doesn't have it. But no, Jacob told me it's just they have all the dubs and all the subs. It's just in different files. So that's my mistake. That was my mistake. So but yeah, as far as the film itself, outside of like the problems,
Tiki lacks critical thinking skills. We all know this.
Right. Outside of the dub, which, like I said, there are definitely bright spots in the dub. It's just kind of unfortunate that the two weaker performances are the leads. I think visually this is an incredible movie, especially when you factor in the fact that it's the first Ghibli movie. Now, keep in mind, I have not seen Nausicaa yet. Nausicaa, I'm kind of saving for next year. That's almost like the last Ghibli movie for me. It's kind of like, oh, it's the Ghibli movie that I'm going to watch before I die, almost sort of thing. You know, I'm savoring it. I'm savoring the fact that I have one Ghibli movie left. But no, I mean,
and it's a Ghibli movie in technicality, kind of.
Sure.
Well, also, Tiki, you saw the other non-Ghibli movie, right?
Lupin the Third.
Yes.
Yes, I have.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Castle of Cagliostro either.
Yeah.
I really like Castle of Cagliostro.
Okay.
I just need to figure out which dub to watch.
So I think the interesting thing about Castle in the Sky from like a plot perspective is that I feel like this is almost kind of like, and I apologize if this sounds like a weird comparison, but Castle in the Sky is almost like the John Carter to the Star Wars that the rest of the Miyazaki films would turn into, if that makes sense. It's like it lays the foundation, like all the building blocks are there, all the real building is there, all the ingredients are there. They just haven't gotten like totally ironed out yet. So for example, like our villain, I do think that Muska is a great villain. I mean, obviously Mark Hamill elevates it. My one nitpick with him is I do think that I think the plot twist with him is really cool. I just kind of wish it would have happened a little bit earlier. I kind of feel like he throws it out of nowhere. So there's little elements of that with the pacing and the plot. Honestly, I kind of feel like pacing wise, honestly, this might also sound like kind of a weird comparison, but the movie that I kept thinking of in regards to the pacing with this movie is actually Spielberg's Tintin movie. Just because much like that movie, it's like this movie is almost nonstop, like wall-to-wall action. Like we have a couple moments here and there where we're breathing and getting to know the characters, but like I don't necessarily think this movie has the meditative quality that a lot of other Studio Ghibli movies have, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like I feel like it kind of puts this. I think this movie is among the most accessible Miyazaki movies, and that is definitely has its place, has its merit. But I don't know. It is gonna be kind of towards the middle of my rankings. Maybe it's in the middle of my Ghibli rankings. Maybe towards the lower half of my Miyazaki rankings. That's not to say it's bad. It's just to say I really think that this is a situation where this movie laid the foundation. A lot of other movies came along to build upon the foundation. But it is a very interesting specimen. Obviously, beautiful backgrounds. I think the animation really is the strong suit here. I don't think the plot is the strong suit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to jumping into it. Okay, just to get some Code Geass anime fan comment action here. He says Studio Ghibli is a contender for my favorite film studio, but I don't think Castle in the Sky is one of the better Ghibli films. Honestly, Code Geass, I kind of feel like, and by the way, folks, this is a Code Geass take that's not actually a hot take. It's incredible. Code Geass, you have a nuanced take for once. No, I'm giving you crap, Code Geass. It's all good.
Yeah, alienate our one fan, Tiki. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I do think that the common sentiment with this movie is that like it is very fun, very watchable. It's not one of the it's not one of the, if all Ghibli films are diamonds, it's like it's maybe a diamond that shines a little less, but it's still a diamond. It's still a diamond.
I mean, a lesser Miyazaki film is still a great movie.
Absolutely, for sure, no doubt. I don't think Miyazaki has made even an okay movie. I think at the very least, Miyazaki ranges from really good to all-time masterpiece. Basically, really good to it belongs in a museum.
A Ghibli museum with a cat bus.
Oh God. Okay, would that just be the Ghibli film theme park?
Pretty much.
Okay, Castle in the Sky has two things going in it, which are Colonel Muska and the animation. The plot and other characters really don't work, in my opinion. Again, I agree with the exception of the pirate crew. I love the pirate crew. For me, the pirate crew, I almost detach myself even more than Muska, even though it's Mark Hamill. The found family element of that in the movie is just so heartwarming and unexpected. I don't know. I really love it. Kogia says, Tiki, I felt excited for a minute when you accidentally brought up The Wind Rises. The Wind Rises is just my favorite Ghibli film. It's my favorite anime film. It's your favorite. Wow. I mean, I've been impressed
Tiki,
by how nuanced that take is, honestly.
It is Kogiya's anime fan, so it would stand to reason his favorite film would be an anime.
No, I just would like The Wind Rises. Like, I mean, good on you, Kogias, because that is a really good one. I would have not guessed that would have been like his favorite film of all time. It's just a little nuanced, but that's a good take. Look at us, Kogias. We're putting out the good takes, not the hot takes. All right, so yeah, that's about it. Dragon, I assume you have some background on this.
You assume correctly, sir. All right, let's see. So, here's background in a nutshell. So, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, huge success, massive success. Ended up being ended up as the rock that the Church of Ghibli was built upon. So in June of '85, you have the big three. You got Hayao Miyazaki, you got Isao Takahata. He's basically kind of Miyazaki's partner in crime and mentor. Did Grave of the Fireflies. That guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just that guy.
Well, yeah. It's just like the. It's just like the. The Monsters Laugh floor attraction. He's that guy.
He also not only that, he also did like Pompogo and
Yep.
And My Neighbor the Yamadas, and most recently the Tale of Princess Kaguya.
But still, also that guy.
Also that guy. He's like the other most famous director of that studio that isn't Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah. Jacob, I don't know what you're not getting about that guy, but yes.
Dragon, don't tempt me to look up the lyrics to That Girl.
Don't make me. I'm probably going to spring it on you at some point during this. I have a whole song for May-Azaki, but we'll get there.
Oh God. Okay.
Also, the third, rounding out our trio,
Toshio Suzuki.
Yes. Anyway, so Suzuki, very much the money man. He's kind of the Steve Jobs of the three.
I think the better comparison maybe is the Roy Disney, right?
Well, I was going with the Pixar comparison, Tiki.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Roy Disney probably is the more apt comparison here.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Fine. It's the Roy Disney.
Roy Disney is one of the most famous money men in animation history.
Oh, sure, but I was going for you have a Lasseter, Ed Catmull, and Steve Jobs, the trifecta. But
My bad.
Anyway, but yes, very much the Roy Disney. Anyway, so they founded Studio Ghibli, named Ghibli because Ghibli apparently was named after basically kind of a big whirlwind kind of storm that happened, along with the World War II aircraft. So again, the love of aircrafts and basically the idea of an engine so powerful it causes a whirlwind, which we see in action in Porco Rosso, and a very awesome bit because the engine they use in it is literally called the Ghibli engine. Anyway, the mission statement of the company was essentially the reason they went really stuck with Ghibli is that they wanted to send a whirlwind through the industry of animation with the films that they do, because the big sell, the foundational element of Ghibli. And you're probably wondering, why are we talking about all this Ghibli stuff now? Well, this is technically their first film, so it is important. So the thing that separated them from the pack is that basically the standard was studios did animes and TV animation before they did feature animations. That was the big thing that Ghibli really kind of capitalized on. They really set them against the path, and really it was the big risk that they took. Where okay, we're going to take a break from doing TV animation like everyone else, and we're going to do feature animation. That's where we're going to we see an opening in the market, and we're going to fill that.
I don't know why it never occurred to me until now that was one of the big claims to fame for Ghibli.
Yeah. So in a sense, this is kind of their Snow White.
Yeah, definitely.
In a sense.
Would that make Nazca and the Valley of the Wind their Steamboat Willie?
I mean, essentially. I mean, yes. Pretty much.
More accurately, I would say maybe they're Flowers and Trees. More of a deep-cut Disney pull there.
Oh, whatever helps.
It does help, Dragon. It does help.
Okay, so the point being, Nausicaa comes out. Everyone's expecting a Nausicaa sequel. But Miyazaki wanted something else. He wanted to essentially do two things. He wanted, like I said, he wanted to kind of fundamentally with the company, they wanted to do feature animation instead of doing a series, which again was kind of the common practice and kind of what gave him the money in the first place to be able to do a movie. But more so, he wanted to do kind of a lighthearted adventure movie instead of just doing another kind of post-apocalyptic kind of maybe we're clinging to hope in taming the savage giant insect beast.
Mm-hmm.
So Takahata, he basically was kind of lead on being kind of the mentor and the more seasoned of between he and Miyazaki, I would argue. He had a project that was in development, but it kept getting delayed, and basically keep the lights on. Like, hey, Miyazaki, why don't you why don't you do a movie in the interims to kind of keep us busy and give us something to work on? Well, Takahata, Paku-san, gets it in order. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's Castle in the Sky ultimately was a placeholder they lucked out on. And again, the first Ghibli movie, big deal. It's a very big deal. So Miyazaki always loved Treasure Island. He's very much kind of Alice in Wonderlands and Treasure Islands. We see a little bit of Alice in Wonderland and Totoro. A little bit of Treasure Island here. So again, there's a lot of similarities to Tiki's point. There are a lot of similarities into kind of the early works of Disney to a degree.
Yep, for sure.
Anyway, so they took so Miyazaki, he took a research trip to Europe, and specifically South Wales.
Oh, I heard about this. This is really interesting.
So he went to South Wales. This is where Jacob and I kind of mentioned this in Totoro. So Totoro was actually the first time Miyazaki did a film set in Japan. So this is even before getting to that point where he kind of started the reach into the personal. He just kind of was basically kind of a student of life. One could argue. He basically was going around. He kind of went to South Wales, and he loved the Welsh architecture, and he kind of fell in love with the people and kind of what he saw while he was there. When he saw what he was there was the coal miners' strike. Well, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was a strike, but it's kind of like it was a dispute of some kind. It was essentially a strike. And the coal miners, basically, they were being kind of outmoded, and that's why we have all the abandoned buildings at that time in Wales. And basically, he was really struck by the sense of community amongst the big tough coal miner guys. It was a brawl. It was kind of a riot that was happening, and Miyazaki kind of bore witness to this, and it kind of inspired him for kind of a big comedy beat in the movie here.
Right.
Also, in general, the Celtic mythology, which kind of, I think you can kind of see, especially in the design work of what's carved onto the cube effect. When we get to Lapida, there's a lot of Celtic mythology built into Lapida and kind of how it's visualized, at least in kind of the way we're carving the magic.
I think one of the cool things about that is just the fact that I feel like by and large the public perception of Ghibli is that they're very much kind of like the Disney of Japan, and they take a lot of cultural influences from different parts of Japan, which is obviously more true of their later work. I feel like the later they get in and the more established their style gets, the more distinct Japanese influences there are in the storytelling. But I think it is interesting to see Studio Ghibli stuff that doesn't have that kind of Japanese setting to it. It really is kind of like a different flavor of the studio.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I think Miyazaki had to build up the courage to kind of get there. Where again, he's initially, because again, Totoro is like going back to essentially like one of the towns they grew up in. So that's very much like him. Like, oh, I'm gonna put some. I'm gonna. It's like him being the shy kid in the corner, is kind of coming out of his shell a little bit. You know what? I'm gonna tell. I'm gonna do the bit of the self book report in class, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's going to say, okay, well, this is what happened. I grew up, and I had this magical experience with a giant forest spirit. Like you do,
As you do, yeah.
as you do. Anyway, so it was very important to him to make the young protagonist of our film independent, for stakes, and just kind of put them in over their heads. That's why we have kind of young kids as our protagonists. He brought on the Nausicaa crew. He basically, Nausicaa was just basically kind of like, okay, we're going to start a city. We need animators. Let's bring back the crew to kind of arguably our biggest success, so we can actually make a movie. Kind of the goal was, let's do a fantasy that's kind of like has a bitter realism to it, and kind of a bit of like a touch of sci-fi in there, and that's kind of ultimately what the movie is. Now, in terms of how it did when it came out, so it was the first original project that Miyazaki did that did not have a manga basis, or have like the fans from the manga who were showing up in droves for the movie. And because of that, there's only so much they could do marketing-wise. There's like a little bit of marketing.
What do you mean there's no Lupin the Third in this movie?
Yeah, so Miyazaki definitely did have that working against him on this one.
And the thing is, you probably get to the background when we get to it. Nausicaa was only got made because Miyazaki had to make a manga of it first.
Yes. So that's the thing. So basically, there was a lot of, unfortunately, without kind of the kind of the fandom, or just kind of like the notoriety, there's only so much things like, hey, make sure you check out. So again, it was kind of like, it's like these things kind of happen very cyclical nature, where we have like the great movies that kind of fall by the wayside because there's like either not enough marketing, or it's just they're before their time, like the Iron Giant of its era, one could argue.
Right.
So the critics loved this. The critics found this to be fantastic. Unfortunately, not a total loss, but it only made, for what they projected, it made like 2/3 of Nausicaa's box office, which is not too shabby, but so it made money, but maybe didn't make overwhelming as much money as Nausicaa did. So like they can build a whole film studio from the Nausicaa money. They didn't quite get that lucky on the first outing.
Nausicaa money.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite have the ring of Muppet money.
No, it doesn't, Tiki. Wait till the wind rises. That'll come back.
Right.
Anyway, so not a flop, but not what they hoped. But again, point being, they were not dead in the water. Industry's inspired, and again goes on to this amongst the other Ghibli films, especially the Miyazaki stuff, goes on to influence the people at Pixar. We get there's definitely there's some Castle in the Sky with Wall-E for sure, a little bit here and there. And of course, majorly on the other side of the fence, DreamWorks. A lot of Castle in the Sky robots. A lot of the Lapida.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In the Wild Robot.
Definitely, yeah.
For sure. So a lot of the impetus there. So all that said, let's break it down.
Alrighty.
Fun fact. You know what the name? Are you familiar with what Laputa, the name is the word in Spanish, actually means?
Remind us, Jacob.
Do you want me to? I mean, do you actually know, Dragon, or do you just want me to?
I forgot. I read it somewhere, but I forgot what the translation was.
Well, the name of as you mentioned, Miyazaki obviously is a fan of adventure novels. He got the name from Jonathan Swift's, Gulliver's Travels, which is a scathing satire of things happening at the time.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Swift knew the meaning of the word La Puta, which means the whore in Spanish.
Oh, right.
No.
No. That's why I didn't write down that fact, Jacob. Now I remember why I didn't put that down.
So yeah, but I don't think I don't know if Miyazaki knew that and just included it anyway, or he had no idea, or he did know, he just decided to do it anyway. Who knows?
And okay, well, I'm just going to transition this with Little Blue here. Little Blue saying "The Hills Are Alive" from Miyazaki. This is the actual song from Miyazaki. Hi-yo, hi-yo.
Oh my god.
Hi-yo, hi-yo. May-Azaki go. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Hi-yo, 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 hi-yo. Now we're good.
I Dragon, I fucking love that. That's amazing. All right.
So yeah.
Alright.
So unfortunate naming of Laputa aside.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the name and the word is two different. It's like La space puta in Spanish. So
So the opening of this film, I still think is really exciting. It's got action, it's got intrigue, it's got sky pirates, it's got everything.
Honestly, it kind of like throws you into it, which
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I kind of feel like it's cool, but at the same time, I almost every time I watch this movie, I almost kind of feel like I have to play catch up with it a little bit. Which I mean, granted, that is good for like, okay, like you kind of just get thrown into it. Like, wait, what's going on? What is this girl? Why are there pirates? Why is she kidnapped? What's with the necklace? Why is she floating? They float. They all float. Sorry.
But that's the thing. Yeah, it gets you asking all these questions. It gets you engaged into what's going to happen.
Sure.
But like,
Yeah.
especially coming in from like some of Miyazaki's later works, like probably save like Princess Mononoke. Like you don't kind of expect like a bombastic opening like this.
Right. Definitely.
I mean, Mononoke is probably like the only other one I can think of that has like the action opening.
Seriously, Mononoke is such an amazing
I
opening.
mean, the thing with Mononoke's opening, though, that I just have always really appreciated is just the fact that like it is very action orientated, but it's also like what happens in that initial opening action sequence is like it's literally sets the stage for the entire story. Whereas this, I kind of feel, is almost like the sense of like. Granted, it's almost kind of a Star Wars opening, right? If you think about it, like by Star Wars, I mean A New Hope Star Wars specifically, where we really are just dropped right into the middle of the conflict.
Yes. So, I mean, I love like the intrigue of like she knocks out Muska before we even know the guy there. It just seems to be like like pirates are raiding the ship, so it's kind of a build up like why did she her big move was to knock this guy. So that suggests there's something really bad about this guy. And she's outside the Zeppelin. It's like a James Bond opening to a degree, It's like she's.
It is a little bit, yeah.
Now someone needs to lay the over that.
So it's a heck of a start. Or just like the girl's like on the outside of the Zeppelin, and she utterly falls, and it's like, oh my god, what kind of story are we in? Then we have like the artful, they have the kind of the ethereal image of the movie, which is kind of lovingly transitioned from action opening, kind of like okay, opening credits that were okay. The girl is safely floating down, and so basically the ethereal image of the film is like Sheeta falling with style.
Yes, Dragon. Yes, I bet you were really proud when you came up with that one.
I'm considering the previous one we did Totoro, I'm gonna guess Dragon's probably gonna find every way to sneak Toy Story into each of these movies we do this year.
Would not surprise me.
Dragon, are you gonna deny that?
Yeah, I don't know why you guys just hate fun. That's
I didn't say we hate fun.
I appreciate it, dude. If I hated fun, I would not be down for that May-Azaki song.
I'm not saying I hate fun. I'm just saying I can probably guess that Dragon's gonna find some way to work Toy Story into each of them.
Well, I can't promise it, but again, if it naturally happens,
Oh man.
Anyway, so
I mean, can you imagine him working Toy Story into something like Howl's Moving Castle?
Yeah, I can.
I mean, I guess so. Yeah.
You say that so incredulously, Jacob.
I mean, I recanted Dragon.
Okay. Anyway, so Patsu catches her. I love I love the skin. This is the thing that Brad Bird always talked about, where Brad Bird is always fascinated by, like many people, Kevin Lima as well. The Jungle Book being very much everyone's first. And in that movie, you have Bajira lifting Mowgli and kind of how the gravity of character animation works. So we kind of have that here, where once she's safely kind of hit terra firma to a degree, the necklace stops glowing and gravity takes hold, and we show this so brilliantly with the kid's now holding like the girl in like a very precarious. She's like on the edge of this plank of wood. Like, oh god, it's
It's
It's very well animated in a way that makes sense. Again, the illogical logic right there. Like, okay, if this girl did float down magically, well, the weight would probably take effect.
I was listening to Griffin Newman's podcast about this, Blank Check.
Yeah.
And he brought up that just the fact that like all the times, like this movie has so many instances of people like falling or holding onto ledges or stuff like that. And it's just like it's all just so realistically animated, you know, it's just like the way that this movie plays around with gravity, even if it is like kind of like in an illogical logic sort of way, it just works. It all flows together. I feel like that's one of the big pieces of visual language in this movie is just the sense of gravity.
I mean, like you see, like the way she's just like floating down gently. He carries her, like you like see her like dress billowing upwards, you know, kind of like she's being carried down. But then, like the moment it falls, like everything falls, and then like he's like, "Oh,
right." I don't know why, but for some reason that piece of animation is very satisfying to me.
he's like buckling his legs to carry. He's like, oh, he's like, oh crap, I'm actually carrying another human.
Because we've all been there. We're holding something that we think would look a lot lighter than it was. It's just that
right.
experience
Exactly,
moment. Like the first time when you were a kid, when you're like, oh yeah, I can totally lift that, and there's like bowling ball bag. Oh god,
bowling ball. Yeah, that's.
I mean, I work as a loader at a hardware store, and yeah, that happens a lot.
Nice.
So Tiki earlier made like the excellent, Star Wars comparison. With that, again, it's kind of like the Joseph Campbellian kind of logic here, where it's this, it's like any classic.
Mark Hamill's in it from the opening scene.
That's true. So with that in mind, it's like with all the classics, you see a lot of like kind of points of genesis or kind of like similar themes. And I feel.
I love how Potts just introduced buying a sandwich for his boss.
Yeah. Wait, do you know it's a sandwich?
Well, it looks like it's like meatballs or something like that.
Well, yeah, it's like meat. It's something in a container. I mean,
tell me that is not the most Miyazaki character introduction of all time.
Well, we know Miyazaki animates hungry.
Oh yes.
I mean,
we'll get there when we break into Patsu's house and we eat all his food.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, more importantly, Dragon. We're gonna dive deep into that next year when we talk. Or I'm sorry, it's not next year. It's this year when we talk about Ponyo, man.
Yeah.
That Ponyo is the Miyazaki foodie movie.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Spirited Away might. I don't probably.
I don't know. I think more of the plot.
I mean, they're both kind of central plot points.
And to be fair, in Spirited Away, you get turned into a pig if you eat it.
Exactly. Yeah. Spirited Away, you get turned into a pig. Ponyo, you just delight in eating pigs.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like every director has their signature stuff. Miyazaki does have a thing for pigs and ham.
Yes, very much so.
I mean, especially seeing how well
have a Ponyo ham avatar at the ready.
I just want like Miyazaki to guest star on the Muppets and meet Miss Piggy. That's what I want.
Oh my god! Can you imagine if they did that nowadays? And
here's what you do: you would have it be like Miyazaki is just he's utterly enamored and just in the beauty of Miss Piggy, and Piggy's just weirded out by it. Like, okay.
I honestly think the funnier way would be to. I think you have to have Miyazaki as like the person who's just like, where am I? What is this? What is going on?
Of course, he'd be the only one speaking Japanese.
Yeah.
Right. You'd have to work around the language.
However, the Swedish chef would understand him perfectly.
Oh, I like that. Oh my god.
And he'd had the mediator between them.
Plus, imagine you tell me you would love to see Miyazaki and the Swedish chef cooking together.
Oh, you know I would. Come on, that's amazing. That's an amazing.
And him getting along famously with the Swedish chef.
I feel like that would single-handedly redeem the Swedish chef from Okie Dokie Cooking.
Exactly. Okay. Anyway, my point was I see a lot of parallels to Alita Battle Angel with Alita and Zalem, and kind of like the idea that we reveal later that she comes from Lapido, which is kind of like this skyward city that everyone kind of aspires to. It's the MacGuffin of the movie. It's kind of where everyone wants to. It's where she ultimately, I mean, not in this specific instance, but in the cosmic sense, it's where she fell from. So there's a lot of Alita Battle Angel in there, I felt.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah, I still hope we get the second movie.
I know. There's some traction on it lately. It has me excited.
Like, I was like, I want to read the manga though. I haven't read the manga yet.
No, go ahead, read the manga.
Like I said, I know, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
All right. Anyway, so
Which confusing is called Battle Angel Alita.
yeah,
Or just Gunm or Gunm in Japanese.
I don't know.
So-
Honestly, Alita Battle Angel kind of just rolls off the tongue better.
That's probably why they changed it for the movie.
Yeah.
so Patsu and Shida, I think they make for an adorable pair. It's just something about again.
So
with
I'm not going to harp on this issue. All right, I'm not going to be an asshole and keep bringing it up the whole movie, but just I am genuinely curious if either of you two have nearly as much of an issue with the two leads in the dub as I do.
No, I don't. I didn't care, man. I will admit. Okay, I will give you this. Yes, on the rewatch and you confirming that it basically made me think, okay, maybe I'm not crazy. There was a bit of an accent shift in the movie with her. I thought maybe I heard
crazy.
something.
Other than that, I can let everything else go. I can let the fact that James Van De Beek does not sound like a child. I can let that go. That is not like a unique thing for a Ghibli dub. The switching accents thing, though, it was kind of killer for me.
I don't really care. It's a lot of other really cool stuff going on.
All right.
I mean, it's like it is kind of. I did kind of notice. It's like, I mean, I didn't really make a big deal of it either, but I was like, wait, why does she suddenly sound British?
I didn't make a big deal. It was just distracting more than anything else.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go this far as to say this. With the Star Wars parallels, same thing with Leia.
And
you know what? You're absolutely wow.
All right.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, you're not. You're right.
Good cool, right. Dragon. Good cool.
You are right.
Okay. Never anyone complain about that one, do you?
I mean, I wasn't complaining. It was just something I was just like, why is she switching accents?
Yeah, exactly. Anywho. All right, so the point being, there's something that's kind of like a nice and kind of ethereal with the idea of like the whole fallen angel kind of thing. That's how she kind of like it. It's kind of the foundation of their friendship. She literally falls into his lap practically.
Oh.
No,
right, so
for real, I do think that the bond that they have is very it's very much like the innocence of childhood, right?
Yeah.
It's very much just kind of like there's no strings attached to it. It's like they care for each other almost instantly, which is really nice. It's almost kind of like a fairy tale kind of friendship, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It is. It's instantly endearing. Like he's just like I said, you first meet him when he's buying like dinner for his boss, and then he immediately just goes out of his way to help this girl he just met.
Dragon, I have a question, and this is probably a stupid question. I'm willing to bet the answer is no. But this Mark Hamill performance was not pre-Joker, was it?
No, it was after.
I didn't think so. All right.
So this era of, again, we're kind of jumping ahead a little because we show the mining community and everything first. But so this Mark Hamill performance, this is circa 97 to 98, presumably.
Because of course there's that whole thing of like this, this movie came out in like the late 80s in Japan.
Yeah, it came out in 80s. So the movie
came.
The movie came out.
Kind of like, there's always that timeline ambiguity when it comes to Ghibli stuff.
So the movie came out in 86, and that's which is, by the way, fun fact. Okay, I know it beat Pixar by 1 year. Pixar gets founded. Pixar was 86. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it was anyway. Pixar's in 86. Their first movie comes out in 86, but they're founded technically in 85.
I still love that their first short was kind of based on fucking My Dinner with Andre of all things.
I mean, yeah, to a degree. Anyway, what was I getting? Oh, right. Okay. But yeah, so that's it's kind of a post-animated series, Mark Hamill. But because again, basically when Disney started doing the dubs, it was like 98 got delayed to 2000. I don't want to get into the whole like ipso facto on that one. Regardless, so the mining community, which again was kind of a big thing discovered in the research trip here. So Patsu, what we learned is that Patsu is a good kid. He's a hard worker.
I honestly think if this movie were to come out today, Elijah Wood would have voiced Patsu.
I don't
I feel like he's got the same sort of cadence that Van Der Beek has, but he just sounds a little bit more youthful. I don't know. It just kind of crossed my mind when I was listening to him. I was like,
to be fair, when this movie was actually dubbed, Elijah Wood could have been chosen.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a couple years pre Lord of the Rings, so it's not like Elijah Wood was like still the little kid from the Back to the Future cafe at that point.
Anyway, so Hatsu kind of represents the principles of Miyazaki, which essentially Miyazaki loves the white hats. One could call him. He loves like the class. Like he likes the good kids, the good natured kids who are like you kind of again. It's kind of the message to the kiddies out there watching movies. Like this is how you should act, and you get rewarded by the end of the day if you stay true and you do the right thing.
Uh-huh.
So basically that's why he's kind of Patsu. He's doing it upright. He's giving his all, do the best job he can, even though it's not a glamorous job. We see that the mining community, it's a respectable community. They're tight knit, dangerous job. A lot of machinery whirling, and for me, one of the MVPs of the movie. First of all, I'm going to say this. I love the movie, but I think Act One's the best part of the movie. I love Act One of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, for me, I think I think the best stuff in the movie is all the stuff with the robots, but that's kind of scattered throughout.
I mean, I'm not saying there's a bad act in the movie. I'm just saying I think Act One just it all kind of believe me. Act One we don't really get Muska really that much. I mean, because of that, I can't. It's kind of hard for me to say that because I love the Mark Hamill stuff. But at the same time,
I feel like all the good stuff in I'd have a hard time picking a favorite act because I feel like all the best stuff in this movie is kind of spread throughout the runtime.
Anyway, so one of the MVPs. I love Patsu's boss. I love how we have like the little thing where he's giving the sand, like the food and everything. He tells him like, "Hey, clean up. What'd you think, Patsu?" I love Patsu's boss defending him and Sheeta from the pirates.
And then when the pirate like puffed out his chest like, "Hey, Rick, hey, burst your shirt."
Oh yeah.
And then his boss does it too, and his wife's
and the wife's not happy.
The wife's like,
there's honestly a lot of like pirate humor in this movie that I feel like was specific to the dub that actually does work really well.
I'm not mending that,
Right, stuff like that, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So that whole scene where we have like the fight with the pirates and then the boss versus the lead pirate. Miyazaki, he loved the fighting spirit of those miners during that strike, and that is exactly what was just represented there. Because these guys, essentially, they're being outmoded at that time, and that's why we kind of have like our picturesque kind of the abandoned building vibe when the kids are hiding like the caverns and everything. That's very much based on kind of like the way of the mining community. What they're going for it was always like the tragedy of like these once prosperous buildings where these hardworking guys were, and like like the caverns and the like basically the mining shafts. Anyway, the point of all of this is to show that Patsu, he's capable. He's more capable than the average kid. So Sheeta and Patsu are going to be able to take care of themselves, or at the very least have a fighting chance of taking care of themselves when they go on this adventure, without like adult supervision.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the point of like why we put them in the mining community, and I think we did a really effective job in like kind of showing that it kind of shows there's a lived-in quality, and like in forms like Patsu, he's probably been on his own for a while. He's kind of like an orphan taken in by the town to a degree.
I mean, that's another thing. This movie is like great world building. Like it doesn't hold your hand in like explaining what the world's all about. It's just like, okay, this is a mining facility, very like kind of like early 1900s technology kind of world.
Almost kind of like Industrial Revolution vibes.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to get my reading glasses. I'm going to read into some stuff here, okay?
Okay, you do that.
So, the symbol of the mining. So basically, this is a movie, like a lot of Miyazaki films, this is a movie about nature. And one could argue that, again, it's about nature and kind of refined. Again, the mining is basically... It's kind of indicative of nature, and that we're kind of digging in the earth, digging in the dirt, and basically we're refining the beauty of nature, which basically gives us the crystal, which again we kind of see through the uncle character,
Uncle Palm.
That there's kind of the crystal, the ethereum, like kind of like shade, like kind of like non-pure ethereum is kind of like around there. So we kind of see like it's very much kind of it's symbolic of the big overall kind of like goal and MacGuffin of the movie, just the heart of the ethereum that's in Lapida. So again, so mining is about kind of refining nature and what's there, and it's the fact that people admire the shiny byproduct, but not the work that goes into it. And I think that's the value of the mining community. That it's the evolution of it's kind of like this evolution of just kind of like something to kind of preserve, something to just kind of appreciate to it becoming weaponized.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I can see.
Kind of reminding the Ethereum and ultimately turn into a weapon. And again, the Uncle Palm, he basically demonstrates this with the exposition about the Ethereum and the warning to the kids. So I don't know, that was kind of my takeaway on the rewatch. I never thought about the mining, is that it's just about we should appreciate the workers and just just kind of nature as it is, and just kind of in its unkempt, just kind of maybe not so pretty form, versus like the it's gleaming and shiny, and what horrible things can we do because of it's gleaming and shiny and potentially menacing nature. Like we should
It's
basically
gleaming at me menacingly.
But yeah, it's like we're taking away the we're changing nature from its natural purest form to something that is that fits our standard of beauty. Maybe there's a double-edged sword to that, where again, if it's the shinier it is, if it's shiny, maybe it could be the last shiny thing somebody sees.
Tamatoa from Moana is just like perking up in this conversation.
Okay. There's one time I heard about this castle up in the sky. I really want to go there one of these days.
Oh God!
Right. So Act One,
no, that's the Moana 3 plot that we need.
Don't give them ideas, Tiki, because now they're gonna do that.
Well, okay, to be fair, Moana 2 is happening, or Moana 3. Ugh. It's happening regardless, so I might as well pitch something that I'd actually want to see.
All right. So Act One, we have the awesome chase. Like, just again, with it being one of my favorite acts, I love the Raiders-esque, just kind of like it feels very Razor Lost Ark-esque. This chase that we have once the kids get away, and we have like the kind of like the elevated train platform.
I was like, this movie has a lot of inventive action sequences.
Well, like I said, that is like, what do you guys think of my Tintin comparison? Because I feel
no, that's what I'm saying with the Raiders thing. It's absolutely there's some Tintin in there.
Yeah,
I mean, totally. I mean, I don't even know if Spielberg drew inspiration from Miyazaki for those, but I can totally see the.
I mean, obviously, I think with Tintin, the biggest thing was just like Spielberg making an animated like Indiana Jones. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Spielberg, I would not be surprised if Spielberg is like studies Miyazaki. That seems like something.
I mean, he's seen Miyazaki films. I don't know which ones he's seen though.
I mean, Miyazaki. I mean, Spielberg is a animation nerd, basically. Like he loves.
Yes, basically.
He loves animation. So it's like I'm guessing he probably has been familiar with that, but whether or not he was influenced in Tintin or not, who knows? And who knows how much of that actually came from the original source material for Tintin anyway. But I can totally see the comparison to Tintin. Like I can totally see like the Tintin, that version of Tintin anyway, being on like fighting against the pirates. Funnily enough, on a wooden elevated train platform.
So it's just got such a nice flow to it. Now we meet our leads, we have some comedy, we build up the menace of Muska throughout Act One, and we just have this amazing chase on the train tracks, and it's just wonderfully crazy and chaotic. Just as it goes, I love that we get to a point where the kids are like running on the elevated, train tracks, and like on one end you have the government with like essentially tanks on wheels. Then you have the pirates that are coming in, wanting destruction, going after the girl's necklace. And their solution is we gotta make a jump for it, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, it's just it's fantastic. Now I want to say one of my favorite bits in the whole film. Okay, I get jazzed out of my mind with this bit. It's very simple. I love the conductor saving the kids from being shot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, generally speaking, Dragon, I feel like this movie does have a lot of just people being nice and there for each other, which I assume is part of the whole like mining research thing. Yeah.
It is. It's like such a fist pumping moment of awesome in that first act, where he's just like, oh no, the kids are in trouble. Like
moment of awesome. That's the fist pumping moment of awesome.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like I said, that's another part of the world building. It's like it's really just how much of a community these places are. Like even like the moment like the people learn that these are pirates and they're after these kids, they like immediately try and put a stop to it.
But it's also too just like again like our government officials here, like the kids were looking to go to the police, and then like the government like the soldiers and the military guys have shown up and they're shooting at children. It's like, oh my god, these kids, they're oh boy, they're really gonna have to think on their feet. And that's basically what we convey here. And I love that Potts said, well, I know she flew once, so we're gonna jump for
it. That's fun.
Got a literal leap of faith.
And again, it's even more tense because he tried jumping on his own with the necklace, and it didn't work for him.
But that does lead into the discovery later that you need to have her and the necklace for it to work.
Yep. All right, so again, we demonstrate the plot point. Also, Dola sees the necklace in action, so she knows, okay, that's the real thing. Payday, boys.
Yeah, and like the fact that she's like all of their it's
okay. We need to break down this freaking.
Yeah. Let's do it. Tiki, make the comparison. I know you're twitching to do it. Tell them about it.
No, by all means. I honestly don't know exactly. Like, I don't
really. I'm amazed you didn't, Mob Eagley.
What? Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like it is. Here's the thing, though. I feel like with most of these tropes, with the Ma Beagle thing, it's always like the Southern mother, and I feel like just this being just a pirate just kind of elevates it. I feel like this is maybe my favorite of this kind of trope that there's ever been. Honestly, so I don't know. There's just something about the fact that the pirates are. I love that the pirates are all grown men, although I will say that one of the most problematic elements.
I know.
You know what I'm going to say? I don't even have to say it. I don't even have to say it. It's icky. It's in there. It's Japan in the 80s, whatever.
It's all even, to be fair, even Disney has that had that problem in the beginning, too. The whole,
true.
It's like the prince, that all the technicalities of the princess ages, where it's like, you really think about it, it's like, yeah, none of those princesses are technically, that never really works.
When I was a kid, I kind of looked at the princesses as like ageless, and
I know that's the thing. There's like ageless, so they're all like kind of like essentially like early 20s or something. You can never.
Although, granted, I feel like the only one that really doesn't apply for is Ariel, because like canonically, she kind of has to be a teenager within that story. But I digress. But no, I mean, just the fact that these pirates are all like grown ass men. Like burly, manly men, but they're all like very different flavors of that. They're not. That's the thing about the Beagle Boys that I find the Beagle Boys, they're fun. I don't dislike the Beagle Boys, but I feel like with the Beagle Boys shtick, it is kind of like if you've seen one episode with them, you kind of get what their whole vibe is about. I not so with the pirate crew. I kind of feel like with the pirate crew, there's a lot of different kind of layers to dig into with them.
So the big thing with Dola is kind of a combination of Long John Silver from Treasure Island and Miyazaki's mother. No, seriously, Miyazaki. That's in the.
No, I believe it. I totally believe it, and that's fun.
Because Miyazaki loves the strong female characters. That's the thing he puts in all of his movies to some. In some way, shape, or form, and especially in kind of a mentor capacity here with Dola, and also we have the wonderful Cloris Leachman, Frau Blucher herself. Yeah, BoJack Horseman's favorite actress.
Oh God, yeah.
Like, remember, the Bluger doesn't mean glue or anything in the original language. It's just a joke. Just a joke.
All right. Well, yeah. So Dola, I mean, she's I love that she very much. I love when she takes the kids under her wing and she allows them to become honorary pirates, essentially.
It's fucking charming, dude. It really is. That's one of my favorite elements of the movie.
Not professional pirates, but honorary pirates.
Yeah.
To continue the Muppet references.
Yeah.
Like the first time she ever interacts with the kids directly is when she later breaks into Patsu's house.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she was shooting at him earlier. Be right, directly though. Like she's eating all Patsu's food.
Like, and talk about like food animation.
I know, right?
Oh yeah. Plus, I mean, she's like eating like was it, like the ham or something. She's like eating like the big like the leg
Like
of lamb or whatever.
it's like
turkey.
it's like the shot lingers on her eating the ham.
Yep.
By the way, speaking of that, there's like a neighbor girl in this movie that looks distinctly like Ponyo. Did any of you catch that?
It's like the thing is, like Dragon and I just brought that up when we were watching
Totoro.
watching Totoro.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. I feel like that is just kind of like a
We were building to to Ponyo. We were building there.
right. No, but it's interesting though. It's kind of just like a.
It's like the girl and like the little neighbor's like mommy, daddy, Bonsu's coming.
Okay,
right,
so
yeah, exactly.
Now there might be actually a good explanation for why that is though, because in Totoro, now mind you, this again Totoro was more when it was actually kind of like divine, but it was May is based on Miyazaki's niece.
Mm-hmm.
So it would stand to reason. I mean, mind you, I don't know if at this time the niece would have been like of an age to inspire him or not. But I don't know. It could just be. I think it might be coincidental in the back of his mind. Like, what if I took that design, kind of infuse my niece into it?
The design of my niece, because
and then when she grows up,
everything in his life is animation design.
And then when she grows up, Kiki.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like the funny thing is when I first saw this, I was like saw like the little girl in like the pale red dress coming out. It's like, what do you know? Another Ponyo precursor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's like almost all of his like little girls that look that age kind of look like Ponyo.
yeah, for sure.
Even in this one, even her hair kind of looks like Ponyo.
I just love the idea of Miyazaki just kind of going about his day to day and just doing these mundane things, just kind of having these moments of inspiration. Like, you know, he's going to lunch with Suzuki, and he's just saying like, you know, oh, what's wrong, Kai? This is like fish. Like, yeah, but we're about to go to the seafood restaurant. Like, no, fish girl. Okay, let's do it.
And then he just looks at Miyazaki and he's like, "But Hayo, it's lunch." There's a callback.
I didn't even order yet. I don't put down the drawer, man. We have to order. If we don't order now, then we're gonna get to our table.
Oh God.
Like the funny thing is, like a lot that Ponyo is also kind of unlike a lot of other Miyazaki films.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we'll get to that when we do that movie.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
So, what else about the Pirate Gang?
I mean, well, like I said, I think the found family element of the movie, where like the Cloris Leachman character just genuinely like takes these kids in. It's so charming, man. It's so heartwarming for me. I don't know. There's something about it that just
John Silver, man.
My heart. Yeah, totally.
Because
but again, it's like John Silver. If John Silver was just ultimately just a really good guy with no actual evil motivations, you know what I mean?
But I love that she acts kind of irascible and kind of like John Silver-esque, where, you know, she's going on about like, you know, we'll throw you overboard if you don't earn your keep. And, you know, she did her big entry point was like shooting at him and trying to steal the necklace.
Right.
But still, I love the heartwarming scene in which they're in the crow's nest, and she has like the intercom system there, and she's overhearing this really sweet, endearing. I love all the pirates are listening into like this really sweet conversation about, you know, Dola, she's not as mean as she acts. She's actually really nice, you know. But there's something really nice, and like the sense like Dola's like, oh, they're gonna leave, and I just took them on as pirates. It's like, but you know, she gets it though, and she's rooting for these two crazy kids.
Yeah, no, I mean, just generally speaking, it's just like a very fleshed out character. I just and I have heard some criticism that the pirates do kind of get kind of pushed to the side in the third act, and I will say that I think the third act is, if I were to pick a least favorite act in the movie, I would say it's that. I mean, Mark Hamill is on fire in the third act, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the third act is kind of where the plot almost kind of like gets away. It's kind of funny because I kind of feel like this is one of those movies where it's like, it starts out really simple, but then when we get into like, again, like I said, I'm sure we'll break it down, but like the twist with Mark Hamill's character and everything, it just, I almost kind of feel like plot wise, it's kind of biting off a little bit more than it can chew. And yeah, the pirates are kind of in the background, but I love the ending with the pirates though. So I feel like that for it.
Also really cool. So again, another thing in this movie is that let me transition to a big aspect that feeds into the pirates and also just everything else. So Miyazaki, his obsession with flight.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Big
this
motif there.
now, mind you, I'm not saying we haven't had elements of flight before, but this is the first time we've really like full on like have to. It's a big central plot point. Flight's very key to this movie.
I assume in Nausicaa there are some like flying insect
Yeah.
moments and stuff.
Well, not insect, but basically like Nausicaa's mode of transportation is flight.
Right.
Basically,
So it's kind of like that's kind of like Miyazaki like dipping the toe in. I honestly don't remember off the top of my head if like Cabinet of
Caligari.
Cagliostro.
Oh,
yeah.
Castle of Cagliostro.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Jacob. I'm sorry. I did get that and Cabinet of Caligari mixed up. I'm sorry. That's
Right.
stupid.
You've been watching too much Nick Cage, Tiki.
Probably yes. Dragon. I have seen The Surfer in theaters twice, so yes, I have objectively been watching a little too much Nick Cage recently. That's a true statement.
Anyway,
but no, but I think one of the things I do like about it is the fact that like I'm sorry, Dragon. Do you remember if the Lupin the Third movie has any like planes or anything like that in it?
I haven't. That's my blind spot. I haven't seen.
Okay, yeah. I watched it once. I can't remember. I would honestly be surprised if there wasn't at least some sort of action scene on a plane or something. But
I mean,
I don't remember off the top of my head though.
I mean, I know there's a clock tower scene, but
yeah, but that's not a plane.
I know. I'm just saying.
That's not a flying machine.
I know. I'm just saying. I know there's like at least a car chase and a clock tower. Those are like the most famous scenes.
Jacob, is it a flying clock tower?
My point is,
I'm sorry, Jacob. I'm giving you a hard time.
My point is, nothing. I don't know anything about it, and from the sound of things, I don't think there is a flying scene in Castle of Cagliostro.
All right,
well, we'll find out next year.
Yeah.
So, let's see. What was so that was the flight in this movie. So yeah, Miyazaki, he loves flight. He basically wanted the designs to reflect like a time, and fundamentally, this is a thing we kind of explore in the other movies as well. But fundamentally, here it was like he wanted to explore a time when machines were fun and exciting. Flying machines were fun and exciting.
Which ultimately, that's kind of like a thesis for how Miyazaki treats flying machines just in general.
Well, and again, in kind of his career, it's
like, what if airline travel just never became boring and corporate?
Well, I'm saying in the kind of the arc of his career, I mean, from here just ultimately to Boy and the Heron, it's ultimately about just kind of the beauty. Again, the conflict within Miyazaki is that he loves, he loves World War II era, kind of planes. He loves war design planes, and ultimately, again, they're beautiful in the way they work, and the machinery is flawless to them and captures the imagination. But on the flip side, used for atrocities.
Sure,
and kind of built again in the effort, again the manufacturing of them again, kind of war profiteering for the for things that would lead to the bombing. So it's not really so that's the conflict in them. The beautiful machinery used for war, and that's kind of what the theme of this movie is. That again he then spends his whole career kind of exploring for the most part in almost all his movies.
Mm-hmm.
So here, Patsu, we kind of reflect that he's building planes because his father was a pilot, and I love his goal. So Patsu's goal is vindicating his father. And his father is like famous. He took like the one photo that is the one documented photo of a lapid.
That to me, the one documented photo and his motivation for finding the castle in the sky. That is like probably the single most compelling plot point in the whole movie for me. I think.
So in terms of like inspiring the greats, and this one I think there might be more of a direct line to. Of course, people at Pixar, they love Miyazaki, and Pete Docter is one of them. He loves Miyazaki's work, especially I know he's gone on about Howl's Moving Castle, which we'll probably get into.
Believe it or not, Howl's Moving Castle is a blind spot for me. I'm sure I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I've never actually sat down and watched it.
Oh, well, I think you're going to be in for a treat.
I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, same here.
So the point being, so the Doctor's mentioned Howl's Moving Castle often, but I mean, he doesn't really. I don't think he's ever mentioned really Castle in the Sky. But I'd be shocked me if it was not an inspiration for Paradise Falls.
And, oh yeah, totally.
And with that, there's also, again, with Potts's motivation, there are some shades of Charles Muntz, in that Charles Muntz was trying to kind of vindicate and kind of redeem, the public opinion of him, which obviously took him down a dark path, but at least in the impetus,
It's
in
like
the
a
opening of that
Charles
movie.
Muntz that never got stranded and got all twisted and evil.
Yeah. And plus, again, it's more like the son avenging the father than the father like, kind of losing himself to kind of,
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so that's the thing. So his father got the one photo, and he basically wants to prove that it's real, and that people always kind of mocked and kind of chided his father, and it's basically so he's doing all this. It's a noble goal. He's just doing this as a tribute to his father, and again, much like Spielberg, Miyazaki has daddy issues because of the conflict within him over my father did his part making these beautiful flying machines, but again, flying machines that led to a lot of death and destruction, and we profited when a lot of people were suffering. So there's a lot of kind of Tony Stark, Howard Stark daddy issues going on there between Miyazaki.
And then another thing with Boy and the Heron that I really love is the fact that we ultimately go back to birds in that movie in a way that we've never really explored before in Miyazaki.
Yep.
And that what are birds if not living flying creatures?
That's the thing. It's flight and flying machines. That's
it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Now, to be fair, Miyazaki likes vehicles and all sorts of other terrain. I'm saying flight is the big one, though. Obviously, flight's that's the anyway. So it's interesting. Now, this is where I overanalyze flight, by the way, just because it is important with Miyazaki. And again, this is the first time we really fully dive into it. So what I read on the importance of flight in this movie is that humanity seeks flight in kind of the floating castle, via flight. It's kind of like the future. It's kind of representative of future impossibilities. That this castle basically means that if we can go, Lapida is this achievement that again, they're all writing off. Oh, of course, if that place really existed, we can get to it. All of our problems would be solved. And they've kind of tossed it aside. Of again, it's this thing that should inspire progress, and maybe people are just saying again. Right now, they're focused on the minds and very ground level versus kind of the upper level thinking of if we could actually fly there and just and kind of go to this mythical flying castle. And the fact that then you have to get in all these logical kind of things well, how does it fly? And if we went to this place, we would kind of learn the secrets of Lapida. And again, it's the whole thing of inspiring progress.
Sure.
And however, in actually pursuing the flying castle and pursuing this means of self-propelled flight, humanity falls, like Sheeta did in the intro to a degree. I mean, it's kind of symbolic. She's kind of the representative of Lapida, and again, it's kind of like humanity kind of falling.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm reading too much in the Sheeta thing, I know, but I'm just saying.
I get you.
What I'm getting at overall is that there's kind of an Icarus flying too close to the sun parable with Lapida and the whole humanity trying to fly, and basically everything Muska's doing ultimately is basically it's kind of Icarus.
Mm-hmm.
I
like how we do. It's one of those classic stories where it's we do make it to the castle in the sky, but we can't hold on to it. It's again another Treasure Planet parallel.
And again, it's I'm not just trying to be all film nerd on you here, but it's this whole thing, this movie geek thing. But it's this very much is an absolute MacGuffin. Everyone wants to go to Lapida for different reasons. And it's all about the pursuit of Lapida before it's actually about really Lapida itself.
It is kind of like to pull in another film reference, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like that, or like Kevin the Bird and and Up, where again it's not about what do we do when we find them. It's all about the pursuit of the bird, and the falls and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so the point being, everyone, again, ultimately, everyone's, they're pursuing Lapida for the wrong reasons, and that leads to a lot of destruction, ultimately. Okay. So, let's see. So, without further ado, let's talk about Muska. Let's talk about how great Mark Hamill is in this movie.
I'll let you take the lead on this one, Dragon.
This is a fantastic 90s era Mark Hamill performance. Again, what it always reminds me of is basically the most evil, well-developed version of Ferris Boyle from the Heart of Ice episode, which was the first time we heard Mark
thought
Hamill.
You were going to say Ferris Bueller, and I was like, that's a stretch. That's
no.
What if Ferris Bueller was secretly the heir of a floating kingdom? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
A Batman the Animated Series fun fact I'm sure everyone and their mother knows, especially Tiki. I hope Tiki would remember.
Oh, I won't.
Okay, so when they did Batman the Animated Series, when they did Batman the Animated Series, originally Mark Hamill was not the Joker; it was Tim Curry, and he went
Yes,
back.
okay,
And
I actually do remember. Yes,
and he went back and he redubbed he dubbed over those the 2 or 3 episodes. I think it was 3, but he dubbed the Tim Curry episodes. Anyway, he so originally he was brought in only as a one and done, as kind of a one and done guest star to play Ferris Boyle in the Heart of Ice episode, which he plays, the very cold-hearted businessman that ruined Victor Freeze's life. And then, of course, thankfully, he went back and he, then was able to, do the Joker, and again became, basically he became the definitive version of that character to the end of time. But yeah, so again, if you really look at the performance on Ferris Boyle, there's a lot of that in Muska, and I really love that we're basically taking just kind of like this really greedy, just kind of like despicable person who puts on kind of like a professional, like bon vivant kind of like basically he's
also that got that kind of like false father figure vibe.
Yeah.
What I really love about it is that like and this is kind of me sort of like putting on my film theory hat here for a second, so you'll excuse me, but I love how like when we're first introduced to him, we really don't know what his vibe is, and he is acting rather fatherly towards our main character, so it's really hard to get a pulse on him. And it also, in that opening scene, the Cloris Leachman and her pirates are like directly pursuing our lead character, so it's like I love how it switches. I love how Muska clearly becomes like the main antagonist, obviously. And the pirates are just fucking so lovable. And
the more lovable we make the pirates, the more evil he looks by comparison.
Right. I love that dichotomy in this movie. That's one of my favorite elements.
And the thing is, Muska's also a person you love, but you don't love.
Yeah, he's so petty, and I love a petty villain. It's one of my
totally.
Again, it's like the little moments with the Kingpin. It's all the reverse Flash in a nutshell. So these are the things that make a great villain. They're petty about the little things.
If we're gonna bring it back like other references earlier, it's like he wouldn't be out of place in a James Bond movie.
Oh yeah.
No, he really absolutely would not. He does feel like a Bond villain for sure.
Yeah.
I love how he dresses. That's what I'm saying. So he's very aristocratic in how it basically. I love that what we've. So
I love the glasses in his design too.
Yeah. So with Muska, just looking at him from a visual aesthetic and just kind of factoring in like what we know about him later on, the guy essentially he knows that he descends from royalty. And even before really getting into that, like fundamentally, he's a guy. He's in pursuit again of this hovering utopia. So in a sense, what he's pursuing, what he's associating himself with, is above everyone else. So he believes himself to be of the upper class and the upper crust, and he's looking down on everyone. So again, he's like looking again is this gleaming, floating utopia, and he's looking down the dirt people of the mining community. Like he's like giving like here's a thank you. He gives him like the gold pieces, which I love the detail by the poor Patsu. He has like he feels so angry at himself for like essentially he didn't actually sell the girl out, but he didn't really stop her when he really feels he should have, and he can't bring himself to throw the money because he doesn't need it.
Right.
So a little detail. Yep. But yeah, so again, his Muska's design is it's great. His ego is like off the charts because of the royal bloodline. He's just feeding all the petty. Just he's so mean to the Jim Cummings general. It's hilarious.
Early foreshadowing when he sees Bell's like the words. It's like basically that's like early foreshadowing that he knows more than he's letting on when it comes to Laputa.
Sure.
It's like he's a very fun villain. Funnily enough.
I just love the fact that this guy, because of his royal bloodline and his ego, because of it, his ego's off the charts without realizing that ultimately it's an empty empire. There's no one there. The whole place is probably empty for a reason. We don't know why it's empty. We don't need to know why it's empty, but it's empty for a reason, presumably because, again, it's like we flew too close to the sun. Humanity probably, kind of tarnished the nature that was there, and that's why it's ousted. That's why ultimately, Sheeta's family, essentially, they kind of separate themselves from it. So he's so cruel to these kids too. Like he's threatening Patsu, which is why Sheeta makes the deal to basically again they kind of breaks things off. And I love how messy that scene is too. You feel so bad for Patsu and Muska. He's trying to play it like, oh, it was a misunderstanding. I didn't know you were helping the princess out from those nasty pirates. Here's some gold for your trouble. And then of course he just can barely keep in the menace where it's like this, hey, you little brat, like don't it was like don't run after her kind of a thing. He's so oh god, he's so
deliciously evil.
yes, he's so deliciously evil, and I love again. He's so insulting to the general, and again the fact that this guy's a colonel, and again it's by again it's kind of like the Raiders thing, where again he's kind of a high ranking he's high ranking in kind of like the way of things because he's kind of like
He was appointed by the government.
yeah, it's appointed by the government, so it's kind of like I was going to use a Raiders comparison. It's very much kind of like a Red Skull thing. It's kind of like how
if you're talking about that, Belloc, kind of like Belloc when it came to like Toad and all that.
Essentially it's Belloc and Toad, but it's also a little bit like like Red Skull in that he was the head of the Nazi science division, so the occult was kind of his specialty. So he's like there whether they like it or not, and obviously that gives him some power that everyone's a little jealous of.
Yeah, for sure.
The funny thing is, like, the new Indiana Jones game kind of has a character like that, too.
Cool.
Oh, man, I wish I could play the new Indiana Jones game.
I mean, it's pretty good, actually. And it kind of has, like...
No, I've heard
like,
amazing things about it.
I mean, like, it's like, kind of like the main Nazi villain is kind of like one of the lead scientists and actually, like, the one who, like, came up with the idea to look for the Ark, I believe.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of ties into that.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's see. Okay, so I guess moving on, we cover a lot of stuff here already. So eventually we have this awesome kite ride, essentially, to Act 3, where the crow's nest detaches, and kind of gets.
Once again, another example of like how fun the gravity is in this movie.
Yeah. Have like the glider built into it and everything, and essentially we kind of get lost in the storm again, very much like Paradise Falls. Like we have like the storm that brings the house all.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So there, so Lapida is. So let's talk about Lapida now. We finally get there. One, it's such a cathartic. Like these kids are so happy they've attached themselves to each other literally, and they're like doing a little celebration. Like yeah, we did. They almost fall over the cliffside. They're so happy. It's very endearing. You're so pleased that oh man they made it after this whole movie finally made in Act 3 as we should, and ultimately Lapida is this utopian vision of Hayao Miyazaki's dream come true. Is that it's the fusion of technology and nature in perfect harmony with each other,
and it's also flying.
That too. Again, it's
it is flying technically. Yeah,
this is Miyazaki's dream house. This is his dream car. He wants to live in this castle. It's everything for him.
You know for a fact that if he could feasibly find a way to make his house float, he totally would.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I wonder how Miyazaki felt about the concept of the floating house with the balloons and Up. I would like to think.
I read some of he liked Up, so
I would like to think that at the very least the concept of the house with the floating on the balloons just warmed his heart.
Miyazaki doesn't talk about a lot of the Pixar stuff. I know he's visited Pixar, obviously, and Goodwill trips and such, but he's gone on record, I think, of saying that Toy Story, basically, he acknowledged the importance of what Toy Story did for the industry, even though it was very anathema to what he was doing. And I think he said that he liked Up. That's pretty much all he's really said on the Pixar films beyond like what he just did visiting.
Miyazaki's a very private guy in general.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, again, those documentaries they put out to you, which you still, at some point, you got to watch those.
Oh, I know. It's
because they're very much in the documentaries in the style you like them, because they're not about like the life story. It's about like him at very important times in his life.
No, I get that. And
it's kind of a trilogy. It's kind of a documentary trilogy in a sense. I don't know. Anyway,
it sound like so fucking stupid, Dragon, but you know what one of the barriers of entry is for the documentaries?
Is it because it's subtitled?
Yes.
But you love the subtitled stuff.
Not in documentaries.
Really?
That I've never really brought this up before, but yeah, like because maybe it's just how I engage in documentaries. Like I don't watch them. It's not like I'm not paying attention to them, but they're I kind of feel like if I have to like pay attention to the subtitles, it's almost like a little bit too much work when I'm also processing the information. I don't know.
No.
I know that's super duper petty though.
You know what the funny thing is? Obviously everybody knows about the discourse of like dubbing versus subbing kind of thing. But
Yeah.
like, like Miyazaki actually like doesn't mind the fact that his movies get dubbed. He's like, my movies are meant to be seen, not read.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, that is a good point. Yeah. And to be fair, like generally speaking, outside of the occasional Anna Paquin, most of the dubbing voice casts that Ghibli gets their hands on are fantastic.
I mean, of course, obviously some dubbing is going to be better than others.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that, but even he's like in favor of
I
dubbing.
love Betty White. I think she stands out like a sore thumb in the Ponyo dub. We will get there when we get there.
My point being is like even he's like his movies should be dubbed into other languages.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so again, Lapida, just Miyazaki's dream home. That's but seriously, it is the embodiment of everything that his movies are trying to kind of come across. His movies, like Totoro, as well, like in a positive sense, we're trying to communicate that this is how we should treat nature.
I feel like the cat bus is like the dream home of cat ladies the world over.
Well, yeah.
Just if I could just live in the cat bus, that would just be a dream.
So Lapida,
seriously, I mean, I'm sure you guys brought this up, and I think we brought it up before too. But like the interior of the cat bus is just ridiculously fucking comfortable.
We did.
So I wonder how warm it is on the inside, because does the cat, does it have like internal body temperature? Can you like, does it have like air conditioning?
Right.
Like
I don't think it's air conditioned.
But is it like warm like the inside of a cat, or like it just raises, like to quote Batman, it just raises too many questions.
There you go.
And who cares? And like again, I'm gonna bring this up once again. Hold on.
We don't care. We don't care.
Right?
Nice. Wait, is that the actual Pixar?
Yes.
Quote?
That is.
My god, that's amazing. Oh,
Tiki, we've used this before.
No, I know.
I didn't mean to play it twice, but my streamer had it on loop.
No, it's all good.
Right. So,
I know what that's from. What documentary that's from?
That's from the commentary on Toy Story.
Okay. Oh man, that's a deep.
That's where it was first coined. We don't care.
We don't care.
Like, how is the claw machine this powerful?
I love just how accurate we've been saying it the whole time to the actual tone that they say.
I told you.
It's like how is the claw machine so powerful? We don't care.
Right. Love it.
It's the most jovial, like middle finger to logic. We don't care.
It's like yeah. It's a movie about sentient. It's about movie about sentient toys, and you're questioning the logic of a claw machine.
Oh man.
All right.
I still think it's a shame that Disney, like, they've made Pizza Planets over the years, but they've never made an actual, like, fully immersive one with the arcade games and everything.
Closest thing I've ever seen to it was again like that DVD, the CD-ROM game that they put out, where you actually get to explore Pizza Planet.
Oh,
why can't we have that in real life, Dragon?
However, Tiki, I keep telling you that People versus Food, the people were unofficially sponsored by.
Wait, what now?
No, okay, we're not actually. I'm saying we wishfully would be sponsored by or something. The People versus Food YouTube channel.
Okay, I need to look into that. Yeah.
They made all the animated.
Oh,
food.
right. No, yeah, I do need to look into that.
And they have they have the contest of like seeing how long people can go without eating, or they're eating like punishment foods or like reward and punishment foods and stuff like that. And they've made not only all the Ghibli foods, they have made the Pixar and the Disney foods, and with the Pixar foods
tell me they've done Goofy Movie.
Yes.
The bacon and eggs.
Okay, I don't think they did. They haven't done it yet, but they given the Goofy Movie stuff, they may have done it recently. I haven't seen if they've done it yet. But they've done all the other Goofy Movie stuff.
Honestly, Goofy Movie to me is kind of the gold standard when it comes to the Disney food animation.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Point being,
even the fucking Hi Dad soup looks delicious. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, yeah. And again, that's another we don't care about it. We learned in that documentary where technically, the soup you can never use a cigarette lighter to make soup like that. But
it's such a charming
exactly.
Little
the fact it's in like a little styrofoam cup.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So the robots. We have these advanced and awesome these kind of robots, and the idea they're kind of like very Flesher Superman esque, and the wild, obviously the wild robot being the apt modern comparison for it. So it's a again we built it up in
I
Act
think the
Two.
robots are probably the most memorable element of the whole movie for me.
I love, and also by the way, I don't think it's an accident in as in bringing up Ferris Boyle, bringing up the Heart of Ice episode in Deep Freeze when the sequel to the Heart of Ice episode, Mr. Freeze. The robot that springs Mr. Freeze, if you really look at that robot, it's like one for one the robot from Castle in the Sky.
Yeah, for sure,
Like
for
pretty
sure.
much. Again, it's very Flesher design, but again, between the Flesher design, which the animated series obviously very much modeled itself after, and the Japanese influences here and there. Yeah, that's one of them.
I mean, considering like one of the main studios that worked on Batman was Japanese, Tokyo movie Shinsha.
Oh
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
TMS for the kids.
Is it Shinsa or Shinsa?
I don't know. I always called TMS. I never really.
I know it's Tokyo movie Shinsha or Shinsa. I just don't know if there's like a second H.
And point being, robots are cool, and not only robots cool. This robot again. I love that we built it up in Act Two. We saw I love how horrific we saw the skeleton of the destroyed robot, like an autopsy sense of we don't know.
That to me almost kind of has a little bit of an Avatar: The Last Airbender vibe to it.
Yeah, I also have a bit of a Wonder City vibe from Arkham City, where it was we had the lost city from the 1920s underneath Arkham Asylum that Ra's al Ghul tried as the energy alternative to basically, instead of destroying Gotham, here's what we could actually build, and it just kind of fell by the wayside. But have the robots that were very steampunk in nature. And obviously, there's a big steampunk vibe in this movie, as you can probably tell, especially with the vehicles and the pirates and everything. Which also, Easter egg. I'm convinced the father of the pirate family, Dola's husband, pretty sure deep down was inspiration for the Boiler Man in Spirited Away. If you really look at the design on that guy.
Thinking of the pirates, I love their dad.
Yeah.
It's I love the dynamic between Dola and the Boiler Man, but the husband, I don't know if the husband even has a name. But I just really love how the pirates introduce he's harder on us than Mox. But then he's completely fine
Loves
with
Patsu.
Yeah.
Well, Patsu's not a dope, and he's not hitting on the younger girl, so he's
and also
which automatically makes him the best male character in the movie.
and also he knows how to work an engine.
Yep. I love the fact that the boys love desserts. By the way, I think that's hysterical.
Oh yeah. Again, there's so many little character quirks with these pirates. I love it.
Yeah, it is nice.
Yeah, but so I love that we kind of open the corpse of the robot, then it reanimates once the necklace kind of basically calls for assistance.
And the initial robot awakening is actually kind of scary.
That's the thing. So
definitely.
Again, it's a robot on a mission. It's surrounded by bad people essentially, and
it takes straight shots from bazookas, bullets. They even tried flooding it with lead and stuff, things like that, and that doesn't work.
It just keeps coming, and I love that
it's like the pre-Terminator.
And Cheetah's a little scared by it at first, and who wouldn't be after all? It's like melting brick.
Yep, but then it protects her.
Yep. Anyway, let's see. Point being, so also a little nod to Nausicaa.
Yeah.
We have you'll see in Nausicaa we have the little fox squirrels, so we kind of see them here. So it's kind of a little nod to hey, here's the thing that gave us our start. We're gonna pull a little Easter egg in there with one of the futuristic species, or the remaining species from the days of old that's kind of around the robot. So it's a little nod to Nausicaa's pet from that movie.
Huh.
So that's what's running around the main robot that's on Lapida.
Makes sense.
Let's see. So again, overall Lapida, it's beautiful. It's desolate. It has these robot caretakers that it values the nature, and again, kind of similar to Wild Robot, we're protecting the little eggs.
And I love how Patsu's he's not alone. They initially think he's alone, But then Potts is like, he's not alone. He has like all these animals, the birds, the plants. He's like, he's not alone.
Yeah.
which is nice. And I do kind of see where, like, I mean, I know the Wild Robot's based on a book, but I can definitely see some of the, considering the director of that movie is also a fan of Miyazaki's work.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see the inspiration there.
So again, Lapida is it's like ancient yet so far ahead of its time. I love that there's like no full backstory on it because we don't need it. You know, the ambiguity works better.
The only thing we know about it is like it flies because of the Ethereum. That's basically all we need to know. Like how they managed to get that much Ethereum, why they did it like that in the first place. Who knows? And we don't care.
Yep. So yeah, and again, the castle. Again, like Miyazaki having a thing for castles, thanks to the Castle Cagliostro.
I mean, like as I jokingly say, like Miyazaki's castle trilogy.
Yep.
There really is a Miyazaki castle trilogy. That's totally legit.
Obviously,
he really loved that Nathan Fillion show.
Oh,
like,
oh man! If only the Nathan Fillion show had flying machines.
Like the funny thing is, like of all the movies in the Castle trilogy, if we're gonna call it that, this is the only one that's based on an original idea of Miyazaki's.
It is, yeah.
Because Lupin, obviously, Castle of Cagliostro is based on Monkey Punch's Lupin the Third, and Howl's Moving Castle is based on the novel.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk about. So we're in Act 3. Muska invades with the army. We have stakes. We're showing the stakes all over the place here because the pirates are they're captured and they're going to be hanged. We graze Patsu across a bullet grazes Patsu's face, which is like, oh god, our kids are getting dangerously close to being shot again, like literally. we throw a grenade in there, like a landmine.
Like 1980s PG, motherfuckers.
Plus, we throw like one of the old fashioned like the World War I style like the landmine grenade things like in there with them, which by some miracle that kid's so indestructible, it's crazy because he falls through brick like in the opening of the movie, and yet he's and then we're trying to blow him up or shooting at him. This kid's very lucky.
That reminds me, there's a very, very chilling moment that Jeffrey Wright has with a grenade in The Last of Us Season 2. That, it's cool. It's cool. Anyways.
Nice. So, the point being, we have stakes. Sheeta's taken hostage yet again by Muska. And we're in the castle. So we're in the castle itself in Lapida, and I love how we hit the morals so perfectly with Muska here. Is that he's in Lapida finally. He's been pursuing it very smartly, by the way. I love how I love his whole thing where he has like the general and the military there. It's like he lets them get all the riches and the jewelry because they're going after the booby prize while I'm going after.
It's almost kind of like the Jafar method, right?
Yeah, it's the Jafar thing.
It's like the rest of the treasure is yours, but the lamp is mine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like to the pirates, like the jewels and treasure is their prize, but to him, Lapita itself is the prize.
Right.
So again, we hit the moral so perfectly that he doesn't get how nature is literally at the heart of Lapida. It's not even really so we see when we visually see like the wide shot of Lapida, we ultimately reveal that it's basically a precursor to Avatar. It's a precursor. It's the giant tree is at the heart of Lapida. So it's nature incarnate that has a city built on it and around it, like in a ring of sorts. So it's it's just very it's very James Cameron-esque kind of idea, I guess. So the idea that under the roots of the tree and the vines and the roots and everything, they're at the core of the city, at the core of the tree of life thing that we have going on here, is the giant pure Ethereum crystal that is essentially that has all this again. It's beautiful. It's an energy source. It's kind of on one hand it's an arc reactor, on the other hand it's kyber crystal for the Death Star. And essentially,
the crystal from Atlantis.
Ah, there you go.
Very much the crystal from Atlantis, definitely.
Yeah, there you go.
I wonder if that was also inspired by this movie.
Well, I mean,
I think Atlantis was inspired. I honestly, that might be one of the most direct comparisons. Honestly,
Well, that would have been Mike Mignola most likely coming up with some of that.
It's literally it is kind of the opposite though. Instead of a castle in the sky, it's a castle under the ocean.
Yep.
But the rest of it's basically there, like an ancient city. I mean, the whole nature kind of thing gets thrown out, but like that ancient technology, the giant crystal being the source of everything.
Yep, we have the sentry kind of. They're not robots, but we have sentries. They're like the giant stone sentry guys. So you know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's kind of like where the comparisons end, but
Sure. Anyway, but yeah, so essentially, so we have this. So man, Tiki.
Yes, man.
man.
So man
is the most. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Okay, so humanity here turns Utopia into the Death Star, and of all the people that turn into the Death Star, it fits. That'd be Mark Hamill.
Yeah. Like he's basically turning Laputa into a battleship, a flying battleship.
Now this brings us to another huge thing with Miyazaki, which we kind of mentioned with the flight thing and the fascinating the dichotomy. Well, you know, kind of the conflict within them. That in turning Laputa into a weapon, it's the idea we have the capability of limitless atomic bombs.
Sure.
So this is a huge thing with Miyazaki. We're again very affected by the ultimate evils of war and the Nagasaki bombings and basically the threat of the atomic bomb. And there's basically this, but more so one of his later movies that was maybe thought to be his last movie before he had like A Boy and the Heron in the can. Kind of Oppenheimer before we had Oppenheimer.
I mean, Wind Rises is very much Oppenheimer.
Well, that's what I was saying without saying the title to you, but yes, that one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
But yes, that's what I'm saying. So this is kind of like a precursor to Wind Rises, which is ultimately when he does that. So I think it's really interesting that we're kind of seeing that here in a big way, and it does like the demonstration, which terrifies the military. Like, oh God, what have we done?
Right.
Even the army men themselves who helped them get here are like what? Oh my God, this guy's insane.
Yep. So it's just I love how palpable it gets, where we basically see the inner labyrinth, the labyrinthian kind of design of like the bowels of the castle, where Sheeta's running from him, trying to get the crystal, the activates and runs everything away from him, and he gets really scary here when he's chasing her, and it's again this little girl going up against this power crazed madman. And then Patsu's armed with Dola's big honking gun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep, and Muska is so evil. Shoots off just the precision too. He's able to shoot off Sheeta's pigtails,
which is nuts.
Yes.
But basically, it just goes to show he could easily kill her if he wants.
Yes. So two things. So the main reason he doesn't kill her is that one, he kind of needs her, but at this point, he mainly needs her for the gem. But he doesn't want to kill her because we reveal, they're essentially their cousins, they're royal cousins and the last descendants of Laputa. So he kind of wants the bloodline. He wants her on his side, even if he has to keep her and threaten her the whole time. He's trying to rebuild and just be the king of it all.
Yep.
Basically a king of nothing.
Exactly. King of nothing. And we have this great bit with Sheeta where she's basically has this thing about this, we're in the throne room right now. It's actually a tomb. As in it's going to be your tomb that we're going to stay here. And we're going to die here. Pretty cool for that little girl to stand up to him like that.
But of course it doesn't take long for him to move past that.
True. So things are looking pretty bad, but Patsu in their back pocket they have that grandma flashback. We way earlier in the movie we had
the spells.
Yes, the spells from Sheeta's grandmother about the spells they could one of which basically is kind of a self-destruct button.
It's but it's basically talking about for all the good spells. She must also know to understand their power. Must also know of the evil spells.
Yep. And I was again in the plotting of the movie. I love that they had that in their back pocket. And we did establish it. And we were able to use it just when the time was right. They didn't want to use it, but we got to destroy Laputa. We can't let. We've seen what humanity will do when they find this power. They won't appreciate the beauty like we will. They're going to turn to the Death Star. We're going to blow up the Death Star. But we can't use Luke this time. No. We just have to actually blow it up. So I love the detail we blind Muska like for a moment too, where his ambition literally blinded him there. It's like, oh, I can't see.
Yeah.
Yep. So then the Lapida is kind of most of it is destroyed. The robot and the wildlife are fine, so it's not completely destroyed. Just like the castle parts, it's kind of back to the bare bones. It's kind of like the topical, kind of top side of it all.
Yeah.
And again, kind of like kind of up in reverse, I guess. The house kind of floats down to the falls. The Lapida kind of floats up and out of humanity's clutches.
Yep.
And apparently, if you look very closely, you can see kind of like Muska having a standard Disney villain demise.
That's awesome that it's just in the background.
You can see him falling to his death.
He went the way of months.
From what I understand, you have to be looking for it.
For sure.
But it's actually he does die.
Yeah, well, he deserved it.
Well, I'm not saying he does.
By the way, in case anyone's wondering, why the heck do we have why is this the one pure evil Miyazaki villain? Well, obviously it's interesting, it's cool that way, but actually it was a really smart move story wise in that it was a practical thing where we had they simplified. Originally he was going to be more defined, and we're going to have him. We're going to get into his motivations and everything. So a little bit more, make him maybe a twinge of sympathy. But they realized, well, we're going to take focus away from the kids and the plot if we do that. So that's ultimately why we're going to Hayo. We gotta Takahata's probably okay. Look, Hayo, you gotta simplify it here. Okay, just bare bones, make him evil, make everyone else lovable. Just then the next ones we can get more complicated. Next ones we can get more interesting and redemptive. Okay.
I mean, even with that, he's a well-written villain.
Oh no, I think I'm saying they simplify in terms of the salvageability of this.
I mean, again, as we discussed with Totoro, simplicity doesn't necessarily mean bad.
Yeah. So we have our delightful reunion with the pirates, who they're all okay, and they got out in time.
This ending is just straight up cathartic for me, man. I love it.
We have the flying bug vehicles on them.
The pirates have their treasure.
Yep. And I love this. Always warns me, Dola, I know how horrible it is having your pigtail shot off.
Oh my god!
I love that she specifically knows. Did she say cut off or shot off, Jacob? Do you remember? Because I think she said shot off.
I don't remember.
It's such a specific detail.
If she says shot off, did that happen to her at some point? Someone shot.
I mean, because remember, a running joke throughout the movie is she's gonna be like Mom.
Yep.
And then to dress like a pirate, you gotta dress like a pirate. She holds up the big pair of pants.
Yep. Which you have to wonder, pants or just giant Mr. Krabs' mother's bloomers. That's
oh god,
Mama Krabs' bloomers.
So for all we know, maybe Dola's hair did get shot off at one point.
I guess so.
I mean, they said they do keep comparing Sheeta to Dola, so it's entirely possible.
So the kids are going to be okay. They're going off to their next adventure, and they're riding the crow's nest. So it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
She and the pirates go their separate ways.
So it's a feel-good movie, man. It's a lot of fun.
It's a family picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I made that comparison. Anyways.
Oh, we did blind somebody. We did kind of kill.
True,
we didn't kill. I'm pretty sure we killed a bunch of soldiers too here. Because remember, some of those guys did pretty much. Actually, thinking about it now, I mean, only a handful of those guys were lucky enough to run when Sheeta told them to. So a lot of them fell to their death.
And if they didn't, they're stuck on a castle that's flying high above the clouds.
Yep. Anywho, yeah, so I guess that about does it. I mean, I guess anyone have something they want to round out with, or?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that this is, like I said, I really do feel like it's never going to be on the top of anyone's Miyazaki rankings, but I feel like it just sets the stage really well. It's a good kind of almost a first draft, if you will, of what a prototypical Miyazaki movie is going to look like. I think I think it's got a lot of charm to it. I think the backgrounds really stick out. The pirates are by far my favorite characters. But ultimately, I think the value in this is just kind of from the historical perspective of seeing like the genesis points of where Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli are going to go from here. So it's a very, very interesting piece of the puzzle in the Miyazaki retrospective that we're going for.
All right.
Yeah, I had a great look. I was head over heels when I saw Castle in the Sky for the first time, and I'm still head over heels for it. I found a lot of substance going back to it, which I was really pleased with, and it is clearly, it's debatable. We obviously, the other movies, one could argue maybe leaps and bounds better because we have so many other great things that we throw on screen. I mean, I don't like stacking it up against the others, like which is like necessarily better than the other, but I'm saying if they started this strong out of the gate, and then of course this movie completely got overshadowed by Totoro ultimately, but it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's an underrated classic, but it is one that they started strong and it kept them afloat, and then everything else just kind of like picked up momentum from there with each subsequent film that comes after. So it was it's definitely maybe the underappreciated success that started all, and I think still holds up, and just a lot of fun to rewatch.
And that onto your point, right? Like as I said earlier, like even like a lesser Miyazaki movie is still a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Like, and I guess my closing argument's like I'm kind of in the same boat. Like it's like kind of like in between Tiki and Dragon here. It's like I still need to watch more of the Miyazaki and Ghibli movies in general to definitively place this. And again, it is kind of hard to place. It's like sometimes it's almost like picking your own children. I mean, the funny thing is, I think in real life, Miyazaki would probably choose the movies over his own children. I mean, if you hear about how he
he's it's a whole ball of
Bro,
wax.
Miyazaki's just in the corner, just shedding a single tear.
No, he's just saying, "I know." Doesn't make it hurt any less, but I know.
True,
Okay.
fact.
Just imagine this. Imagine Miyazaki taking a Christmas photo. He's like holding all the movies, so like a DVD collection of all the movies, and he's smiling into the corner. You have the other Miyazaki's like like an oh father.
Anyway, so all joking aside, there, like I this is like a good starting off point. I did really enjoy watching it the first time I did it. Even on a rewatch, I did enjoy watching it. Like the discovery of like the movie has, the sense of adventure. It's just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Basically, it proves that with Studio Ghibli, the sky, not even the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, big thanks to Code Geass and Little Blue for joining us in the chat tonight. And all right, folks, it's time to board the cat bus and depart until we reach our next memorable stop in the world of May-Azaki.
The hills are alive.
Hi-yo.
Hi-ho.
Hi-yo. Hi-yo. Miyazaki go. Hi-yo. Hi-yo. Hi-ho. Hi-yo.
God, that's so stupid.